hell is this thing? What the fuck is this thing? Whoa! Where the fuck am I? Oh shit. Phantasm tells the story of a group of brothers and their friend Reggie who investigate some strange happenings at the Morningside mortuary and the mysterious Tall Man. What's going on, guys? Welcome, Phantasm fans and future Phantasm fans. This is going to be a review series in collaboration with Lee from DrumDums. You guys all know Lee. We love Lee. Go over there, check out Lee's channel, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, which why the hell have you not hit that subscribe button over at DrumDums? Because as soon as this video drops, Lee's review over on DrumDums drops at the same exact time. We're going to be going through all of the Phantasm movies over the next couple of months. No big rush. Lee is watching all of these movies for the very first time, and I have grown up loving Phantasm. Phantasm is easily one of my favorite horror franchises of all time, so I've been excited as hell, waiting for us to talk about these movies. Cannot wait to see how our thoughts differ as a longtime fan and a first-time viewer. So go check out that video as soon as this one is done, guys. Now let's talk about some Phantasm. So Phantasm is a horror sci-fi movie from 1979. It was directed and written and produced and created by and all the other shit by Don Coscarelli. He is the godfather of this Phantasm universe. And Phantasm is one of the most unique experiences you are ever going to have with a horror movie or with a sci-fi movie. Don't open it! I genuinely think this is one of the most underappreciated horror and sci-fi franchises out there. Whenever we talk about horror icons, everybody always names Jason, Michael, Freddy, Pinhead, Leatherface, all them good guys. The Tall Man, to me, is easily as scary, as awesome, and as iconic as all of those people that I just mentioned. And I'm here to tell you why, so let's just go ahead and kick right into my positives for Phantasm. First and foremost is just the story of this movie. This movie is batshit insane. If you're watching this for the first time, especially if you know absolutely nothing about this movie, it's probably going to take a couple watches before you even figure out what the fuck is going on. Some people that's actually going to be a negative. For me, it's a positive because I love how many times I can continuously watch this original movie and still uncover things, still come up with new explanations, new theories for how some things work and how some things make sense, and just it takes you on a ride that is like no other because immediately you're stuck in this kind of horror world where there's some weird stuff going on in a mortuary. All of a sudden you're introduced to the Tall Man, who's this really scary, sinister figure, and then you see these little mutant Jawas walking around. You're like, what the fuck's going on with that? Now you got little silver spheres going through and scrambling people's brains and shooting blood everywhere. Then you got this Mars planet. I mean, it just goes every fucking direction you could possibly think of and more.
God, I just grabbed him there.
And it has a really great mix of horror and sci-fi. Now sometimes those genres don't mix so well. Most of the time they're kind of made to go with each other. It's like peanut butter and jelly, but for movies like Phantasm, it's such a great marriage because you got really scary, really dark and sinister elements, and you have really intriguing and interesting and kind of mind-bending elements all mixed together for this crazy little horror sci-fi package that is awesome. Moving on from that right into the characters. The characters are one of the best things about this franchise and this original movie especially because the relationship between Michael and Jody, the brothers, as well as their friend Reggie, their dynamic and their back and forth and their relationship and love for each other and camaraderie with each other is what drives this movie.
I'm just a sitting here at midnight, and I've been sitting here till noon. You see, my lady left me lonely,
You want to see Michael succeed because you want to see Jody succeed. You want to see Reggie succeed because you want to see them succeed. You want to see these guys figure out what's going on because they're instantly likable. You really get into the brother dynamic with this kind of strained relationship with the parents being gone, Jody wanting to move on to other things, Michael not wanting Jody to leave. There's so much investment in these characters that so much is going on behind the scenes of all this scary and weird shit going on with just this family, that storyline right there is like its own movie, and everything that they put into those characters and their relationship and their dynamic is enough to invest you in this story even without all the crazy shit.
We're hot as love, you know.
And then you have the tall man, played by the unfortunately passed Angus Scrimm, in what I think is one of the most underappreciated horror performances out there. I mean, this dude, when you watch interviews with him, he seems like the most intelligent and sweet and nice and professional guy. And then you see the tall man and the performance he puts into him, and sometimes just with turning a little eye like that, and he's so freaking insane and scary that it's just mesmerizing how much that guy can put into that character with just subtle little body movements. I mean, he's not even that tall. If you look into it, he's not really that tall of a guy. They use camera tricks and certain things to make him taller, but it's just his presence. You know, his presence, his vibrato, the way that he intimidates these characters, that's what makes him the tall man, not his height. The way that he just kind of shows up, like whenever the scene and the door opens up and he's just sitting there like this, and he looks down, boy. So much about the tall man. I love him. I love the tall man, and thank you, Angus Scrimm. God bless you for this character. And even beyond the tall man, I mean, there is so much about this movie franchise and this original movie that is just so iconic that it's insane. I mean, the silver spheres that go through, I mean, that scene alone is what kind of catapulted this movie into horror history. Getting attached to the dude's face and scrambling his brains and shooting the blood out, but also just the way that those dwarfs in the little brown trench coats happen, the way that the Mars planet and especially the little tuning fork, dimension fork thing, I mean, there's so many images, shots, characters, and ideas in Phantasm that is just imprinted in horror movie history because of how unique and how well executed they are in this movie. And that credit all goes to Don Coscarelli. This is his baby, this was his brainchild, and he made this movie for almost nothing. I mean, some of the elements of that shoestring budget and that low budget filmmaking in the 1970s does not age very well, namely the fly scene, which I'll get into, but so many other elements, it still is just marveling to look at it, how much was accomplished with such a small budget, even to the point where the dude didn't even have a full-on camera equipment throughout the week. He had to rent it on Friday, shoot everything that he needed to shoot until Sunday, turn the shit in, and then wait until Friday again to get his equipment back. I mean, just the nightmare that must have been boggles my mind about how awesome and iconic this movie turned out to be despite all of those blockades. And the thing that I want to end my positives on is honestly one of my favorite things about the Phantasm franchise, and it's one thing that whenever they nail this in a horror movie especially, it has to be mentioned because it just instantly makes that movie so much more important to people that appreciate a good score. Now, Phantasm is easily, if not my favorite horror score of all time. I love the score. It's so haunting and scary and kind of weird and mind-bending in some parts of the score. I mean, it complements the movie and this film franchise and the character of the tall man and the Mars little dimension fork planet and all that crazy shit so perfectly that it almost feels like the movie was made to complement the score. Now, there are some negatives regarding this movie. For me, they are very small negatives, but they do merit themselves to be mentioned. Now, I already mentioned the fly scene. Really, that's the only scene as far as practical effects in this movie that I think does not age very well. Maybe it wasn't even very good in 1979. I'm not a big fan of the fly scene. There's a scene whenever he gets a severed finger from the tall man, he opens up this box, it turns into this little animatronic fly and goes around the house. Just that whole scene to me, it almost feels unnecessary. It feels like they could have had something else there. I mean, the fly is not scary, the fly is not really interesting to me. It's just more weird stuff, I guess, but it's not the best part of this movie at all. Like, that's not the clip that I would show somebody to sell this. And really the only other negative, which is not really a negative for me personally, but it is something that I need to talk about and acknowledge. This movie is so mind-bending and weird and off the wall and strange that for some people, all the unanswered questions, all the what the fuck moments, all of the little tail ends of the story that really doesn't get wrapped up until some of the sequel, some of it doesn't get wrapped up at all, some of that is going to be a turn-off and a negative for some people. Some people are going to watch Phantasm and they're going to go, I have no fucking idea what that movie is about. Some people are going to watch this movie 20 times and say, I have no fucking idea what this movie's about. But for those that can appreciate a movie that gives you just enough to where you can kind of, you know, wrap up certain things in your own mind and you can kind of connect the dots yourself and come up with your own explanations, I think you're really going to enjoy this one.
You play a good game, boy, but the game is finished. Now you die.
So if you're a fan of horror, a fan of sci-fi, and you have not checked out the Phantasm franchise yet, you damn well better start with this first movie because it's one of the greatest horror and sci-fi movies of all time and the kickoff to one of my favorite film franchises of all time. So take your ass out, find the Blu-ray set, go out and buy it. So what do you guys think of the original Phantasm? Are you a fan of this film franchise? Are you a newbie to this franchise? Are you somebody that does not like this movie? Especially if you don't like this movie, tell me down below and explain why. Is it for the reasons that I already talked about it being so weird and mind-bending that you didn't get into it? Or are you somebody that loves that? Put all of your thoughts on Phantasm, the Tall Man, Don Coscarelli, Reggie, all of that good shit down in the comment section below and we will talk about it. And be sure to go talk about it over on DrumDums too, guys. The link to that video will be down in the video description as well. And also down in the video description, social media links like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spreadshirt, and my Patreon page. So check those out, guys. Please like, share this video, hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. And if you want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.